This coming Tuesday, Dry Cold Productions presents the Manitoba premiere of the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical, Kiss of the Spiderwoman. To learn more about the show, I'm joined by director Christopher Brauer. Good morning, Christopher.
Good morning.
Welcome to Classic 107.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to see you. So before we get talking about the musical Kiss of the Spiderwoman, would you mind telling us a little bit about the original novel by Manuel Puig?
Yeah, sure. So this was a novel, I'm trying to remember, I think it was published in 1974, 76, something. Under the military junta at the time in Argentina, the book wasn't published there. It was actually first published in Spain. It's a real sort of form-challenging novel. It's all written as dialogue, and it follows the story of Valentin Paz, who is a revolutionary fighting against the fascist regime in Argentina at the time, who ends up in a cell with a gay man who very much self-identifies as a woman, and then it follows the story of their growing friendship. So yeah, the novel was very controversial, and then since then it's been turned into two films. There was a film in Spanish, and then there was the film in English with Bill Hurt and that one, Raul Julia, and Manuel Puig then adapted it as a play, and then Kander and Ebb, who the audience would probably know from Cabaret and Chicago.
New York.
Yeah, shows like that. They were fascinated by it, and they connected with Terrence McNally, the playwright, and converted it into a musical. And it actually had several iterations before it sort of found its feet with Garth Drabinsky and became a phenomenon back in the 90s.
So, I mean, you just kind of ran us through the progression of this story. What is it that just makes it so ripe for adaptation, do you think?
Well, I think part of it is the form of the novel itself. The fact that he wrote it without description and he wrote it strictly as dialogue. So anybody who's ever worked on a play knows that dialogue is just a skeleton, right? It tells you it's what people say, but it's not necessarily what they're thinking and feeling and looking at and all of that kind of thing. So it ignites the imagination. So often reading a play feels a little unsatisfying because there's so much that's not there. It's why novelists have a hard time writing plays, because they want to put everything in, but in fact a good play doesn't put everything in. It leaves room for the actors. So I think Puig's novel, just formally, the structure of it leaves a lot of room for the imagination of other creators. But then there's the situation, the notion of this gay man in Argentina at the time, and it was illegal to be gay in Argentina at the time, his story of going from being, selfish and a slightly trivial kind of a person to seeing that there is a larger, that he himself and all people have a sort of larger responsibility towards justice. And at the same time, this revolutionary who comes into the cell, sort of a nasty homophobe, coming to realize that it takes all kinds, and that a real revolution is a revolution that moves us towards each other and not away from each other. So that story, that idea, I think, also ignites the imagination, and it makes a lot of creators want to explore it.
Yeah, there's a lot to sink your teeth into, isn't there? I mean, it's all about, to me at least, just kind of creating these dichotomies, these idea of, one train of thought versus another, or one overarching idea versus another, and there's just really is so much for people to dive into. Can we talk a little bit about the musical itself, Kiss of the Spiderwoman? So, I mean, there's a lot there in terms of the novel itself, the fact that Puig left room for the actor to act in a way. In terms of the music, and what Kander and Ebb put together, the great duo, what are you seeing? Can you talk about your approach to the musical?
Sure. I mean, Kander and Ebb, on the one hand, the character Melina is fascinated by movies, and specifically movies of the 40s, kind of Rita Hayworth style floor show musicals, So he's obsessed with that. So they took that as a kind of format. The beauty of those musicals, of course, those musical movies, is that they are modeled after theater. So there's a real theatrical structure, which is something that Kander and Ebb really love, right? They really explore that in Chicago. They fully explore it in Cabaret, right? So they love a kind of cabaret style of musical that's kind of Brechtian in the sense that it doesn't kind of hide the mechanics of making plays. So when Hal Prince got a hold of it as a director, he blew that up into this huge sort of spectacular, cinematic, very smooth musical that moved like a movie. We cut from scene to scene with huge stage machinery, trucks rolling on and off and curtains going up and down and projections and the whole meal deal. What we're doing with Dry Cold, we don't have the Broadway budget.
Yeah, I was going to say, our truck's going to be rolling into Tom
Hendry.
Hendry.
There will be fewer trucks. So what we're doing is we're really embracing that cabaret musical theater floor show style, and we've done some very simple theatrical things to create a sense of flow. And one of the things that we've done is we've just got the whole cast on stage all the time. We've opened up the Tom Hendry warehouse right to the walls. The set itself is powerful but simple and stark. We're not trying to be sort of literally descriptive. Now we're in a prison cell. Now we're out on the street in Buenos Aires. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to go, what if the Spiderwoman, this death figure in the show, which sounds worse than it is, if she were the MC, it's set up like she's the MC of a cabaret. So we just set her up like she's an MC, and then the chorus and all the other characters kind of swirl the world around our two central figures, and it works very smoothly. It's very complicated. There are a lot of scenes, and there's a lot going on, and there's a large cast, but it has a powerful flow towards the sort of very stark ending of the show.
Well, to me, it almost sounds like, in what you just described, it almost sounds like you're returning in a way to the Puig novel. Like you're leaving a place for the audience to now use their imagination,
exactly,
to see the empty space and then to figure out what else is going on and the depth that's there.
Yeah,
is that something
exactly.
like that?
Yeah, exactly. And we're really trying to just focus on the people. It's a musical, it's a show, a story that's set in the mid-'70s in Argentina, but there's a bit of a trap in sort of going, okay, well, we're going to set this in Argentina in the mid-'70s, because then, also because it's a play that focuses on how love is more important than ideology, or in the sense that love will drive us to acts that are more profound and more true than ideology will, and that especially in the face of injustice, and that matters now as much as it mattered in the mid-'70s. And so if we make it exotic and those nasty fascists in the '70s, then I think for us as artists and for the audience, it's tempting to go, oh yeah, that was really bad back then and down there. So part of what we're doing is trying to focus on the characters as people and making the place a bit timeless and placeless, so that we might think, okay, well, that happened then and there, but that could just as easily happen here and now.
We're not removed from it.
We're not
It's still
removed from
happening,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's in our world. And that's the beauty of doing theater generally, right? Is that we're all in a room together. We're all sitting down in a room together. The audience and the actors were breathing the same air. And so, to my mind, the kind of theater that's exciting is theater that doesn't transport us to another time and place, but transports us into other human beings' experience.
Well, Christopher, I want to thank you so much for coming by the studio today. This has been enlightening.
Right on. I'm really happy to be here, and I hope everybody comes and sees the show.
Yeah, come and be a part of it. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
We're all doing it together. Kiss of the Spiderwoman opens Tuesday. That's this coming Tuesday, May 21st at the Tom Hendry Warehouse Theater, running through Saturday, May 25th. For more information and tickets, you can visit royalmtc.ca/drycold.